Welcome to another episode of Offensive. You got Neckbeard here. You got Chief there. We are ready to talk about Week 12. And, a lot of you guys are getting ready for the holidays. Thanksgiving's coming up. Everyone's using their PTO. Nobody wants to work the rest of the year. So if you're putting up your Christmas tree, good luck. We never do that because we just leave ours up all year because we don't bother taking it down. So, Chief, how you doing today, man?
I'm fantastic. I was just admiring my Christmas icicles that were still around my house. I never took them down last year. I live in Minnesota. There's a fair chance there might still be snow in June, July. Why not?
Yeah, nobody thought
That's
they were
just
fake.
going to ladder at any time. So
Right. Yeah, they're up all year and there's normal.
And this is a really strange year because usually by now I'm fully focused on what are we doing for Thanksgiving? What are we going to be doing for gun hunting? What are we going to be doing for Christmas? I don't got to worry about that stuff. Sundays are for football. This is a strange. Normally this season, I've made the joke the last 3 years, we'd play the Lions on Thanksgiving and that would be the end of the season. Anything after that, it's just like, no, none of this crap really matters. This year feels a little different. Again, maybe we make the playoffs. We're not going to make any noise. It's just a very refreshing. This is what it feels like to be a Packer fan, huh?
Yeah. I mean, you're in it until the last week of the season, most likely, Dave, unless the Bears lose 4 or 5 in a row. Every game's going to matter to you. And like we talked about last week, Detroit's coming to Chicago for the last game of the season. There's going to be playoff implications in that game one way or the other. So, even if you guys are out of the playoffs, you can still play spoiler, or maybe they can play spoiler for you if they've locked up their spot and you haven't gotten in yet. That's going to be a good game. So, yeah, you are locked in the rest of the year one way or the other, I think.
And I love that the NFL, they're excited about us too. So we got flexed for that game in Green Bay in 3 weeks. So we got bumped to the afternoon window to 3:25.
Yep. So you can freeze your butt off in the cold, dark night of Lambeau Field.
Oh yeah,
so.
like I told you when you texted me that news earlier today, I'm like, God dang it! I'm like, the sun's gonna set at halftime. It's gonna get cold, dark, and old men are wimps. I'm an old man now.
But you know what? I'm just going to drink a little bit more before the game now. I won't even feel it. So I think that's going to be the secret for me. So, all right, let's go to the games this week. Let's look at this week's games. So week 12, we've got a slate of games that I'm not going to lie are a little bit boring. Texans Bills right now is an interesting game. Okay. So we're recording on Thursday. So that's an interesting game. Vikings Green Bay is an interesting game. We're obviously going to talk about that later. Giants Lions, no. Seahawks Titans, no. Colts Chiefs for sure. Patriots Bengals seems like it should be a good game, but it's kind of uninteresting. The Bears game's interesting, but then Jets Ravens, Jags Cardinals, Browns Raiders, woof. And then Eagles Cowboys, of course. Falcons Saints, yuck. Buccaneers, Rams, good. Panthers, 49ers, surprisingly good, right? So, there's a couple good games this week, but it's kind of compared to last week, this is way less exciting, but there's still a lot of playoff implications. So, let's talk about the team that everybody wants to miss the playoffs. And yes, you can love them, you can hate them, but nobody wants to see them in the playoffs unless they're a Chiefs fan. Let's talk about the Colts and the Chiefs. Dave, what do you see happening in this game?
I see Daniel Jones. He's kind of looked bad the last 2 weeks. He has to go to Arrowhead. The nice thing for him, it's going to be nice weather. It's going to be 65 degrees. It's not going to be cold. It's not going to be miserable. So the field shouldn't have any impact. It should just be two good football teams lining up. It'll be interesting to see if Kansas City, if they're able to get the pressure up the middle to throw Darnold off of his game. But Jones hasn't done as good this year as he has in the past couple of years. It might be one of those where he's doing I'm a vet. I know what I need to do when it's time for the playoffs. Are still not here yet. But maybe he's been dominant for a long time. Maybe he's finally taken a step back. Either way, I think Spags is going to have a pretty good plan for this. It'll be, and I believe that Sauce, it's going to be fun to see what he can do against that Kansas City offense. You have the other Chardavius Ward. I believe I think he's questionable. I think he might actually be able to play. So having both of them for that defense should be for a lot of great matchups here.
Yeah. And now the Colts have played the Broncos and they played the Rams. So they played two of the best teams in the league already. But it feels like this is the game, even though the Chiefs are kind of down this year, this is the game where the Colts prove if they're legit or not, right? If you can go into Arrowhead, where the Chiefs almost never lose, right? If you can go into Arrowhead and you can win, people have to take you legitly, even if the Chiefs end up 5-6 after that game and they have a losing record. That it's still a big deal to win an Arrowhead. It doesn't matter that the Chiefs are 5-5. This is going to be a tough game. And here's some interesting stats, Dave. So both of these teams are actually top 3 in EPA per play. The Colts are number 1, obviously. They're best in the league in offense right now. Kansas City is actually number 3. And Kansas City's biggest problem has been turnovers in the red zone against good teams, because Kansas City has run up the score in a couple games, but in a lot of their close games, they've had turnovers in the red zone. And this Kansas City defense, I think, honestly, Dave, the biggest difference with this year Kansas City is not necessarily the offense, right? They've had their issues here and there. They've made mistakes, but their defense is not dominant anymore. They're actually 15th in the NFL in EPA per play. That's actually pretty I mean, that is the definition of mediocre. They're like right in the middle of the league, right? So where the Colts are 8th. And now the Colts, you could say they haven't played as tough competition, but like I just said, they played the Broncos, they played the Rams already. They've played a couple teams in the top 10 as far as offense goes, right? So I feel like the Rams should win this game, but I got to see him do it before I believe it. It's just so hard to pick
Rams.
The Chiefs. I'm sorry, the Colts. I feel like the Colts should win this game. You love to correct us. You're good at that, Dave. But I feel like the Colts should win this game, but I'm still picking Kansas City because I got to see it to believe it. Are you feeling the same way, or do you think they're going to pull it out?
I thought last weekend was the Chiefs' last big chance to show, nope, we're Kansas City. We're going to win this game. And they came up short. So, you might want to say, oh, maybe they're going to be even more engaged. Maybe they're going to be even more geeked up. I don't know that they will be. I think they're just going to be tired. I think last week was an emotional loss. And I think the Colts might be able to pull away at the very end of this one. I think it's at Kansas City. The fans will be there. The stadium's going to go nuts and everything else.
Right.
But I just think that, emotionally, the Chiefs are finally spent. They've had quite the run. It's okay to take 1 year off after 8 or 9.
No, they're exhausted. And somebody actually I saw make a comparison to like the 2018 Patriots. So the Patriots made the AFC Championship game from 2010, I think, all the way to 2017. So 7 years in a row they were in the AFC Championship game. They ended up going to 5 Super Bowls and winning 3 of those. The Chiefs have a very similar track record. They've been to 6 straight AFC Championship games. They've gone to 5 Super Bowls and won 3 Super Bowls. So like they've played a ton of offseason football, and it's just so hard to keep your roster good so many years in a row. Like, because once you start winning, people get paid and you lose people. And it's like, I felt like last year some of those cracks started to show, but they just kept pulling out games at the end in those close, tight windows, with all the penalties and stuff that helped too.
Yeah.
We haven't forgotten Zebras, what you did for the Chiefs last year, but the Zebras, I feel like, aren't doing that this year. And what do you know? The Chiefs are 0-5 in 1-score games. So I think if it's a close game, I would pick the Colts, but I think Daniel Jones might do his Daniel Jones stuff and like just do something bad that causes the Colts to be down by a score or 2 and they can't come back. Because even though the Chiefs defense isn't as good, once they are built to have a lead. So once they have a lead and Spago can blitz like crazy, especially against a guy like Daniel Jones, I think that plays right into Kansas City's favor. So I'm picking Kansas City in this game. I think they're going to find a way to win, and I think Daniel Jones will give them the ball probably at least
I thought you
twice.
said the Colts the Rams earlier, and then I corrected you and you said Colts.
Yeah, it's the Colts. Am I saying the Rams again? What am I doing?
Now you're saying it's the Chiefs who you think is going to win.
No. I never picked the Colts to win. No. See,
I like the Colts just because you can see what you want about the quarterback. I think Jonathan Taylor he's gonna be a horse in here. You have a dynamic tight end who will be able to, if you get in trouble, you can throw it out to him, which is what Kelsey's been for Mahomes all these years. You got the other wide receivers. I think there's enough of a safety net around Daniel Jones. They have the number 3 rushing attack, the number 2 passing attack. Maybe I had those 2 flipped in yards, but I think they got enough pieces around Daniel Jones that I think that they can, as a team, they can get past Kansas City in Kansas City.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. All right, let's move on to the Monday night game. So the game that I actually want to talk about is Carolina versus San Francisco. Now, when they made this schedule, I bet nobody thought about this game being a big deal, but this game's a big deal. San Francisco is currently 7th in the NFC playoffs at 7-4. That's where they're ranked. And I think we can all agree the 49ers are likely not going to win that division. Never say never, but they're likely not going to win that division. They're 2 games behind the Rams. The Rams seem pretty good, but they could. Likely though, so the 49ers, the Packers, the Bears, the Lions are all going to be fighting for that spot, whoever doesn't win the NFC North. And then you've got this sneaky Panthers at 6-5 right now, 1 game out of the playoffs. Now, this is huge for Carolina. If Carolina can go in and win this game, I feel like that'll be a statement game for them. And they have had they had a statement win against the Packers, but it was really ugly and kind of gross. Like, then they had a gross game against the Bills, and then they just whipped the Falcons last week. They absolutely throttled the Falcons. Now, the Falcons have been playing pretty well on defense, but they're not a good football team, let's be honest. So, like, it was a surprise, but beating up the Falcons is not necessarily that impressive. But if you can go into San Francisco and win this game, I feel like people are going to have to start taking Carolina very seriously to make the playoffs. And San Francisco's defense, which started out really well and has had some good games, has really been sputtering lately. I mean, yes, they beat the Cardinals last week, but they also allowed Jacoby Brissett to set the NFL record for completions. Like, now they didn't score a bunch of points because they're the Arizona Cardinals. Okay. But, this defense has definitely got some holes in it. And, I was really impressed with what they were doing at the beginning of the year. But if you actually look at their metrics now, they're like bottom 10 in most categories defensively. And we kind of expected this at the beginning of the year because they lost, 2 really good players. And then they lost Joey Bosa. And then they lost their best player, their
Warner.
middle linebacker. Yeah, they lost Warner. So, like, they lost 4 legitimate Pro Bowl level players.
Tre'Davious Ward and Dre Greenlaw were the other ones. Your first 2 you're talking about.
Yes. So, and then in free agency, they obviously lost Greenwood. They lost Greenlaw to Denver and their safety as well. Signed with Denver because Denver just signed everybody from the 49ers. So anyway, we kind of saw this coming.
It's working out well for the Broncos.
It sure is. It sure is. But we saw this coming, and it didn't really start that bad. But with all these rookies and with all these injuries, to Warner especially, who's like the heart and soul of that defense, this defense is gettable. It is very gettable. It's actually on the cusp of being bad. It's pretty bad right now, and I think Carolina has to take advantage of that. After they go out and put 4 – Bryce Young, we were talking shit like, yep, he's not elite. Like, he might be okay. Maybe he's not the starter next year, and he throws for 450 and 3 touchdowns. So maybe we should say he's terrible again so he has a good week. But I want to see Bryce Young do that again, especially against this defense that's been struggling. His inconsistency is the whole reason why we're like, I don't know if this guy has a job in a year. But that was a great game, Bryce. Let's see if you can do it against San Francisco in San Francisco. And this is not a great defense, so I expect you to play well. We'll see what happens. But I am taking the Panthers to upset the 49ers in this game. I think they're going to pull the upset. How do you feel, Dave?
I honestly have to agree. Like, for the reasons that you said, the defense, it's just too beat up. It's nice having Brock Purdy back. Carolina's, their defense isn't elite either, but I just think that San Francisco's defense, the matchup is just much worse because I think Carolina can run. They can do a lot of play action. I don't expect 450 yards, but I think, Tedero McMillan, he's really started to set it on fire. He's getting a lot of targets. Yeah, I just trust the full team. I trust the offense. They don't have as many holes on defense, even though it's on the road. I like Carolina just to show it up. And again, if they can tie or if they can beat San Francisco, then they have tied records and then they have the tiebreaker in playoff seeding. So it's a huge game for them.
It's a huge game. And we all know Rico Dowdle can do the job, but San Francisco's only allowed 8 rushing touchdowns, which is actually top 10 for rush defense, but they're bottom 5 in pass of touchdowns allowed. So they're allowing a lot of passing touchdowns. So Bryce Young has got to figure it out in this game. Bryce Young's got to take this game himself and find a way to win and not lean on Rico Dowdle. But, he did it last week. So let's see if we can do it again. All right. Well, that was fun. That was a short one because, like I said, this week's a little bit boring. We could go into, the Eagles-Cowboys game, and we know that's going to be good. But the rest of these games, I think I kind of want to see how it plays out. There's not a ton of playoff implications unless there's like a major upset. Like if the Jets beat the Ravens, wow, that'd be crazy. Or the Cardinals beat the Jaguars, or like the Giants beat the Lions. But there's a lot of matchups in here that seem like it's pretty obvious who should win, or it doesn't matter who should win, like the Browns or the Raiders. Unless, and on to our next segment, is who's going to pick high in the draft next year. So this Browns Raiders battle could actually determine which one of them gets a quarterback if either of them decide to get a quarterback. So let's go to that part. We're actually going to talk about the 2026 draft, because now Dave's instinct is to start looking at the draft now because his Bears normally suck. So, this year they're actually
my Google browser, it's Tankathon is my number one search.
Yeah,
after
he's
this
like,
time
well,
of year.
it's Thanksgiving. I better find out who we're drafting next year. But now you're in the playoffs, so I'll talk about it then. So here's the 2026 draft predictions as they sit now. You guys can see the Titans are on top at 1-9, then the Jets, then the Giants. I feel like if Jackson Dart comes back, the Giants might scoot up a couple spots, win one or two more games before the year is over. But the Raiders and the Browns are definitely going to be in there. So whoever wins this game is going to drop a couple slots down. And I feel like it's the most Browns thing to do to actually win this game, so they keep dropping down. So, but something else that's really crazy, and you guys can see it here. Remember, the Rams traded out of the first round last year with the Falcons. The Falcons have had a pretty disappointing season, and now Penix is out, so Kirko Chains is taking the helm, which is not good. And they're currently picking 10. And what do the Falcons do every year, Dave? Where do they finish in the draft every year?
Oh, they draft 8th.
8 every year.
3 years in a row. Last year it was an anomaly because they drafted like 10th or 12th. But yeah, they'll get back up to 8th. I got confidence in them.
I think so too. I think they're going to be top 8 for sure, which means the Rams, who we are saying is probably the best team in the NFL right now, or at least close to the best team in the NFL, is going to have a top 10 pick next year. So they look like geniuses now after trading with those Falcons. So that could be absolutely huge. But first thing I want to talk about, Dave, if the Titans finish 1, right, which seems very likely, they obviously don't need a quarterback. There's a gentleman named Ruben Bain out of Miami that's an excellent edge that everyone thinks is the best player to go in the draft. If you're the Titans, do you just take Bain because you need that like edge rushing presence? Or let's say the Raiders want to trade up from 4 to 1 and throw you like a first round pick next year, or like in 2 years or something, or like 2 2s. Do you think the Titans are better off taking what seems like the best guy, or trying to get as many people as possible on that roster because it's so bad? What would you do if you were the Titans?
I think there are far too many holes on this roster. They definitely need to try to trade down and try to get some more picks.
Yeah.
And there's some conversations out there. A lot of people are saying, this is another weak quarterback class. Maybe there's nobody who's really ready. Maybe there isn't, a number one that should be taken in the top 5 rated, whatever. But still, there's going to be teams out there that are going to, they think they need a quarterback. When you look at some of these teams in the top, top 7, top 8,
right.
Cardinals could use one, Saints, ? Browns ? So I think that you might be able to get, a little bit of competition for teams that might be willing to trade up to try to get that number 1 overall from you.
Yeah.
Versus, if a team feels there's 2 or 3 solid top 10 quarterbacks, maybe there isn't, maybe they wouldn't be willing to trade up. But I don't know. Just from what I hear, the number 2 quarterback isn't really a lock. So
no. And honestly, I think some people are going back and forth on Ty Simpson or Mendoza as like the number 1 QB. Some people even say Dante Moore. And before the draft, like 2 other quarterbacks are going to show up and they're going to switch spots because there is no clear-cut winner. But here's the thing about this draft this year, Dave, is that it's such a weak draft, not just at the quarterback position, but for the skills position, maybe overall at the top, right? It's another draft that there's just a ton of second through 5th round picks, basically, that everyone's like, oh, these guys have NFL talent. They're just not elite. And there's just not a ton of elite players. So if the Titans trade out, I feel like they're going to get pretty lame compensation for it, if I'm being honest. Like, I just feel like because this draft isn't strong, the compensation might be so lame that they're just like, you know what, we'll take Ruben Bain instead of trading down 4 spots, not getting him and picking up a second rounder or whatever. Because I don't think they're going to get, this isn't a draft class where you're going to get like 2 firsts and a third and a player or something. This will probably be like the Browns trade up from 5 and give you like a second and like maybe a first in a year, which is like not bad compensation, but like not what you expect for having the first overall pick. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, if I'm the Titans, I might stay pat, but I would consider trading to 2 with the Jets. So let's say the Jets are there at 2. Now, we were talking about this off camera. The Jets actually have a pretty decent roster. They don't have a great roster. They have a decent roster. They have a good offensive line, right? They just traded Sauce, so they got picks for that, right? They just traded to Dallas, so they got picks for that. So they got picks all over the place. And what I'm saying is like, if you're the Jets at 2 and you can guarantee yourself the best quarterback, or at least the quarterback you want in the draft, so nobody else trades up with the Titans, is it worth giving the Titans your second round pick and maybe something else to switch spots with them? Because if you're the Titans, it's not a bad idea. You basically get a free draft pick or 2 to take the guy that you want anyway, because you know you're not taking a quarterback. And if you trade with the Jets, I can't imagine they would do anything but take a quarterback, right, at that position. So I could definitely see that trade happening. And I think Mendoza is worth it for the Jets, especially because they picked up all these extra draft picks by trading Sauce and by trading to Dallas. And, you know, they can fill spots later in this draft. They have needed a quarterback since 1969. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's been a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, have the Jets ever picked first and gotten a quarterback, Dave? I don't think they have, right? Have the Jets ever picked first and taken a quarterback? Let's see.
That is an
Jets
excellent question.
first overall picks, number 1. Let's see. Have the Jets ever drafted number 1? Okay, they have done it one time. Oh, Keyshawn, 1996. That's right. Keyshawn Johnson, 1996. That's the only time the Jets have ever taken the first overall pick, right? And they've been in this, like, you know, this just like crazy 40-year period where they're looking for a quarterback. So I say, if I'm the Jets, I trade with the Titans. I give up a second round pick and, you know, maybe a 4th or a 5th too, and guarantee I get the number 1 pick. For the Titans, you don't lose anything because you're not taking that quarterback. And then you can just accumulate extra players, which I agree with you, they need. But if I'm the Titans, I wouldn't trade down to 4 or 5 because you're not going to get a lot of value. So if you can just get some extra change to still take your guy and let the Jets pick first overall, I think that would work out really good for both teams. So I kind of see that happening if the Titans finish 1 and the Jets finish 2 like it is now. But let's talk about the Raiders. If you're the Raiders and you're you're picking in the top 5, you screwed up Geno, you screwed up your coach hire, which screwed up your offensive coordinator hire. Hey, by the way, Dave, I know you're a huge fan of Chip Kelly and his offensive system in the NFL. I know you're a huge fan. Did you also know he's the highest paid coordinator in the NFL right now?
He's paid twice as much as the next. He's getting paid like 6.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
He
I know.
is stealing from the Raiders because if you want to get paid to do a crappy job, go talk to Davis, because Mark Davis will massively overpay you to do a terrible job. He's done it with so many other coaches, and it's legitimately robbery that he's getting paid this much to be one of the worst offensive coordinators in the NFL. Unbelievable that they decided to give him that money. Anyway, I digress. So we all believe Carroll's going to be gone after this year, right? And they're going to pick up a new coach. Let's say the Raiders are picking 3, because I don't expect the Giants to stay there. I think the Raiders are going to be around there with the Jets at 2 or 3. So if you're the Raiders,
the Giants are going to win 2. The Raiders are going to be up there at 3, especially after what we saw against getting Quinnen Williams made Dallas's defense from a terrible to just a bad defense.
Right.
They were no longer the 3rd worst. He does actually add some backbone. But yeah, it's still the Geno should have looked better than that.
Yeah, him and Kenny Clark definitely make their defensive line a lot better. But again, the Cowboys giving up a 1st round pick and losing what they got for Parsons, basically swapping Parsons for him is kind of how I saw it. And they didn't really they got a first from the Packers, but they gave up a first and a second. So they like moved up in the draft 15 picks and lost Micah Parsons for him. So we can get into that later. But let's put it this way. If you're the Raiders, do you do what I just suggested the Jets do and trade with the Titans to get the number one pick so you can guarantee your quarterback? New regime coming in most likely, right? You've got a running back. You've got a decent kind of crappy offensive line, but there's really not a ton of offensive line talent here at the top of the draft. I think Fano is going to be a good right tackle, and I think Mwaga, who's a beast, is also going to be a good player, but they're not like a top 5 pick kind of tackle. Do you know what I mean? Neither of those guys are. They both are more a right tackle, and you just don't take a right tackle in the top 5. You just don't do it. You take a left tackle in the top 5, right? Unless you're the Chargers.
Lions. What about Detroit Lions?
What about the Detroit Lions?
That's kind of Penny.
Well, yeah. I mean, yes. And the Chargers did it. Well, the Chargers did it in the top 10. They technically took Joe Alt.
Well, that's because they already had their left tackle.
Right. Yeah, but what's what I'm saying? If you're the Raiders getting a tackle, like, cool, but you're getting, maybe not the value for that tackle at like pick 3. So why don't you get a little dicey and try to go get Mendoza? I think Mendoza would actually do decently in the NFL. I think Mendoza is going to be good. I don't trust Ty Simpson on Alabama. I never trust Oregon quarterbacks, by the way, ever. Now, Bo Nix has somewhat proved me wrong, but also remember, Bo Nix played in the SEC for like 8 years before he transferred to Oregon.
And there's no other Oregon quarterback you can think of
that I
like. You just mentioned the Chargers.
I mean, no, Marcus Mariota's no good, right? Joey Harrington's no good. Who am I missing?
The Chargers.
Oh, yeah, Herbert is good. That's true.
Yeah, he's kind of good.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. Well,
so they got him and Bo. So the last 4 years,
to be fair,
Bob Knight's money is buying pretty good quarterbacks.
Herbert grew up in Eugene, Oregon, like just outside of Eugene, Oregon. So like he wanted to go to that school. It's not like they recruited him. I mean, they did, but you know what I'm saying? It's not, he wasn't your typical Oregon quarterback, if you think about it, because he's a big dude. Do you know what I mean? And that's not typically what Oregon goes for. They go for like smaller, quick, accurate guys. Bo Nix. I mean, just look at all the Oregon quarterbacks in the NFL. Do you know what I mean? They all have a very similar size, frame, skill set, and it's not always great. Herbert's a whole different monster, right? But anyway, I digress. Okay, other than him, other than the Oregon native, right? I don't trust Oregon quarterbacks, so I wouldn't spend a pick on Dante Moore. Not that high.
So
anyway.
Physically, what do you look for in a left tackle versus what do you look for in a right tackle, assuming you have a right-handed quarterback?
You look for a right tackle that's more of a run blocker and a mauler, and you look for a left tackle that's more of a finesse and can handle the speed rush guys.
And so what did you draft in the first round last year?
The Raiders drafted they drafted a running back. Yeah, so
exactly. And he's looked like doo-doo, right?
Yeah, I think that's
getting a quarterback and putting them behind a terrible offensive line. Both of the tackles, they're definitely in the bottom half. Neither one of them are starters. Right. Meredith is one of the worst out there. Parham, because Jackson Powers Johnson, he just got hurt. So their offensive line, they're not going to see any return on investment in Ashton Genty's contract if they don't start to address the line. I know that you might want to address it later on, but I think going for a solid right tackle that you can run behind would be beneficial to your young running back. So that way you can still get some value out of that. And then, maybe you solidified some of the other parts too. I know you don't like Gino. I think Gino, when he has an intelligent offensive coordinator who can call an NFL offense, Gino does good enough. Right now, again, like you said, you didn't like the old man as a head coach. You thought he was burnt out. He is too old. And he was never going to be the long-term plan. He was just going to be a 2 to 3 year plan just so that way they can try to stabilize the ship, right?
So the Raiders need to stop pretending like they're a real football team and rebuild like they are an arena team, because that's what they basically are. They're so bad. They need to hire a coach and tell the coach, I don't care if you go 0-16, teach these guys how to play in the NFL. We'll keep adding pieces and slowly get better. Like the Raiders need to calm down and just blow up all this old man, let's try to compete this year garbage, because they are not even close to being a good team, right? Okay, so you agree with me. So that's what I'm saying. If you can take a quarterback this year and you can suck next year, and yes, their offensive line is terrible and their EPA per rush is the worst in the NFL by a mile. It's so bad.
David,
right?
all I can think of is David Carr.
Yes. But what I'm saying is
you took a young, talented quarterback, you put him behind one of the worst offensive lines in the league, and it destroyed him. He never had a chance to be anything. His less talented younger brother came to the Raiders, coincidentally. Their offensive line wasn't as terrible, and he at least was an average. So you got to build up the line a little bit before you get a young quarterback, before you're going to give up any other assets.
Dave, I know their line is
can't
bad.
afford.
I know
they can't afford to give up a second or a third round draft pick to move up.
I mean, they've got a decent amount, and they drafted some linemen last year, Dave. Remember, later in the rounds that haven't really played. And yes, they're terrible, but I'm telling you, I think so much of that is the Chip Kelly offense, just because it's so atrociously bad for the NFL, right? So, I like Jackson Powers Johnson. Jackson Powers Johnson is in his second year. He looks really good. He's the size of a truck, right? I like him at center. They have a decent left tackle, and they need to fill probably 3 other offensive lineman positions. But what I'm saying is like one high pick on a lineman this year is not going to make the difference. You should be drafting 3 or 4 linemen every year to build that up slowly. If you can get the best quarterback in the draft, you go get the best quarterback in the draft. You haven't had a quarterback in a long time either, right? So I know where you're coming from, but I disagree. I know you want to go lineman all the time. You're just very biased on that.
Well, like, with them, they have the regular picks, and then they have the Vikings pick in the 4th round, and then they might get a compensatory pick at the end of the 4th. So they don't really have that much draft capital. So I don't know that they really have a lot that they can try to, chips to move in to try to get a bigger chip.
But remember, this draft is very weak in skill positions. So there's a lot of 3rd, 4th, 5th round players out there that they can get. And, you're not going to fix your team with the draft this year. The draft is pretty weak, right? So if the draft is weak, like, I would say don't go for more players. Go for the guys that you can get that are the best at their position in this draft. That's kind of my theory. We'll see what they do. I liked what the Raiders did in the draft last year a lot. I hated the coach. So like I have a love-hate relationship with their new GM, where I was like, man, great draft. And wow, what a stupid hire for a coach and offensive coordinator, right? So yeah, I'm curious what he's going to do this year. But I think a lot of it, Dave's going to come down to the coach that they bring in. And let's be honest, like the Raiders coaching position might be the worst job in the NFL. I think the Jets is close. The Titans isn't, just because the Titans are like a bad franchise, but they've had success and like they're a small market. Like, the Raiders are like a big name team that has an owner that doesn't know what he's doing, that just can't make the right hire. I don't know. I feel like the Raiders job might be the worst job in the NFL. And I have a really hard time believing they're going to come and bring in a great coach. But I think that's really going to depend. I think that's going to determine the draft more than anything else, is the coach that they bring in next year. We'll see what they want to do, right? They bring in a Madden guy that wants to build a line, or do they bring in an offensive guy like you guys did with Ben Johnson, who will take a tight end, in the top 10. So yeah, you never know. But all right, let's move on before we go to the Packers Bears, because we're going to talk Packers Bears. The best player in this draft, a lot of people say, is Caleb Downs out of Ohio State, the safety. Now, you don't normally take a safety in the top 10, but there's a couple teams here that really, really need him. And you could throw the Saints in there, but I think the Saints have a couple different holes that they might try to fill. So I think they might go D-line, because their team is so old. Or the Commanders.
Kind of hurt me. Hurt me the other night.
What?
I think it was PFF Stock Exchange. Love listening to those guys, and they were saying part of what's wrong with the Saints is they have 2 guys on their D line starting that were born in the 80s.
In the 80s,
and I'm like, yeah, what's the big deal? And then I did the math, and I'm like,
son of a. That doesn't sound bad until you realize how old they are. Yeah. You're like, that's not normal. I heard a really funny stat the other day. LeBron came back to play his first game this year. He came back from injury, and half of the Utah Jazz players weren't born when LeBron was a rookie. Think
Oh
about
yeah,
that,
and then they had
right?
two other guys on his own team that weren't born
Yeah.
when he
So
came.
like, he's like my back hurts. I was like, yeah, that's the best response. Cause like, yeah, dude, like the Saints need to stop paying these old dudes to play. So I don't know if this, I think Kellen Moore though is probably going to go offense. I mean, the Saints need a whole overhaul. I would think that a guy like Jordan Tyson, if he's there, would be very possible for the Saints. I also could see them because the Saints don't actually need tackle. They've actually got two decent
No,
tackles. So I could see them going D line. I could see them going wide receiver. I don't think they go.
yeah,
I don't think they go Caleb Downs, but I think the Commanders and the Bengals especially could use a guy like Caleb Downs, and I think that guy. I think he's going to be special in the NFL. He's just such a good player. And I'm a safety, so like I want people to take safeties in the top 10, just like you want everyone to take
no,
tackles.
I'm
right. So
if you have a lot of holes in your secondary, if you have issues with your DBs, I think safety is a fantastic way. Just because if they have the range, if they can help to
right.
protect against the run,
and plus they're the quarterback of the defense. So if you have a good safety that's like got multiple talents that can cover man, that can cover zone, that can blitz, that can do all these other things, like it just frees up so many things for your defense, and it really solidifies it from the top down, which is normally the opposite way to build a defense. You always build from the line up, right? But when you're really, really bad at defense and you can get a great player in the secondary, I think you have to take him. And I think the Bengals could really use him. I think another guy to watch out for is actually the cornerback out of LSU, Mansour Delane, who's like a man coverage specialist. He plays in the SEC, so he can play defense. I can see he's ranked 14th on this list, but I went up to 14 because I could see a team like the Cardinals, the Bengals, or even the Falcons taking Mansour in the top 10, because pretty much once you get past 5 in the Browns, Saints, Commanders, Cardinals, Bengals definitely need defense. They definitely need defense. I mean, the Cardinals need a lot of things, but I would say defense is the main concern for those teams. Yeah, we can see a bit of a shakeup.
Well, yeah, I think after they took Will Johnson last year, I think that'd be a dynamic. Yeah. That'd be a really solid tandem having those. So that's going to help your defense a whole lot.
And they've got
Budda Baker. You got Budda Baker as a safety.
Yeah.
You got Sweat coming off on the edge. You have the old man Campbell, Calais Campbell. He's never going to die.
Dude,
he helps being 6'8", 280. But
I think Calais Campbell's lying about his age too. I think he's like 50. He's still playing because like that dude has been the same player for like 7 years. He just keeps doing it, man. Good for him. Like he's the Robert Parrish of the NFL, dude. He just looks the same. He's been looking old for a while, but he keeps playing great. You know what I mean? Like Robert Parrish looked old when he was like 30, but he played, all the way till he was like 42. So yeah,
I'd absolutely love to see Delane go to the Cardinals. That would be fantastic.
And the Cardinals do have Max Melton, but again, Max Melton I think is more of a nickel. And poor Max, dude, he does a decent job of coverage, but he still doesn't have an interception, and he dropped one this weekend. And I'm like, oh, buddy, I feel you. Your brother plays for us. He dropped stuff too. So good old Bo Melton.
He's just a second-round selection last year, but
yeah. All right. Well, this is the current draft. So again, I think this draft is going to be, I mean, obviously when it comes, Dave will be more excited, but right now there's just, because it sounds like Arch Manning's not coming out. I think he definitely needs another year in college. There's a good chance Ty Simpson doesn't come out. He probably does another year in college. And there's no really great running back. They got Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame up there, but like, again, he's in the top. Not because he's that great, but it's just because it's such a weak class from the top down. A lot of people say that that Love in other drafts would be like a second-round draft pick, right? Or some of these quarterbacks might even be second-round draft picks. But, a lot
I love hearing Lenora Sellers. He's a physical freak. I heard somebody say, I hope he just enter the portal and go to a team with talent.
Yeah.
And an offensive coordinator that knows how to use him. He needs a year of seasoning.
Dude, he reminds me of Josh Allen. He's like 6'6", 248, fast as hell, has a cannon for an arm, but he's playing in the SEC on a South Carolina team that's just awful.
Yeah,
And,
nine touchdowns and 6 picks. That's it so far this
yeah.
season.
Yeah, and he hasn't really shown that spark either, but, he definitely I think he definitely needs to play with some more talent in college. So, yeah, he was projected to be like a top 5 pick, but he's struggling this year. He definitely needs another year in college, and, yeah, he needs to transfer to, like, Miami, like Cam Ward did, or
Oh,
like,
yeah.
or Wisconsin. Come down to Wisconsin, buddy. Like, we'll take you.
It's actually up to Wisconsin.
Yeah, or whatever, sideways.
Racine Case Education's geography is not your strength, or
Oh,
math.
shut up, lacrosse. You ain't much better. You ain't much better. All right, so that was it for the draft predictions. Let's go on to Packers and Bears talk, and let's start with Dave's favorite guy, Aaron Rodgers. Now, is he going to play? We don't know. But Dave, let me ask you, would you rather play against Aaron Rodgers this week, or would you rather play Mason Rudolph? Because Mason Rudolph looked pretty good when he came in last weekend.
Well, Aaron Rodgers came out and he said that he doesn't want to be the villain against the Bears anymore. He hasn't been a Packer for a while. He just wants to go along to get along. What did he say? I mean, I'm not in Green Bay anymore. Let's see. I feel like we can let bygones be bygones. Maybe I can, I guess. So even when he's saying let's be civilized, he's a dick.
Yeah.
Maybe I can, I guess.
Okay, so like realistically, though, Dave.
Realistically, I'd rather go against Rodgers.
Yeah.
Just because that allows our safeties to play closer up to the line. He, like we said before, he doesn't pass too far. And again, Mason, you saw him against the Bengals defense. It's a Bengals defense, but I really believe that I'd rather, if we have less real estate that we have to cover, it's a benefit for our defense. And that gives us more. It's a tighter field, more opportunities for turnovers, picks, which we have the three leaders in interceptions on the season.
Yep. And Rodgers, even despite his issues this year, doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He isn't as mobile, but I feel like I would still want to play Rodgers even despite the turnover thing. I think Mason Rudolph will give you the ball at least once, maybe twice. But I would still rather play Rodgers just because the mobility is not there. And because, like you said, I want to play everyone up close, and that helps against the running game and everything else. So, I think Rodgers is going to play, though. It looks like he's going to play, but we'll see, man. We'll see if he still owns the Bears, because this is a big game for you guys. You guys definitely want to win this one. This is the first team you're going to be playing with a winning record since week 2, I believe. So
a division leader, no less.
Yeah. Hey, 2 division leaders, head-to-head division leaders. Who would have thought that, right? So now the Bears defense has gotten a bunch of turnovers, Dave, and I've given you crap because I'm like, that's not sustainable. But they've been sustaining it for 5 weeks after I said that. They've been still be getting defensive turnovers. And here's a cool stat for you, Dave. You're going to love this. So the Bears defensive EPA is ranked 16th in the league, and it's flat 0. So like negative is better in EPA, right? So like negative means you're creating more negative plays for the offense, right? So they're a flat 0. So they're like exactly middle of the pack in the NFL, but they're number 1 in turnovers. So I would much rather be middle of the pack and number 1 in turnovers than like top 5 in yards against Packers and 31st in turnovers, because turnovers are game changers. So I think it's going to come down to that again. If the Bears get 2 picks or 2 turnovers against the Steelers, I think they take this game. If Rodgers goes in there and does Rodgers-y things and he plays boring offense, but he doesn't turn the ball over, I think Pittsburgh's got a good chance to win. Now, is it in Chicago? It's in Chicago, right, Dave? Is it in Chicago or is it in?
It's in Chicago.
Yeah. Okay. So it's in Chicago. So I think you guys will definitely have an advantage there. Yeah, I'm picking the Bears to win this game. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I like our chances. It's not an explosive offense we're scared about, but they do have a decent rushing attack. That's, a bit of our Achilles heel. If they just continue to pound the rock, hit those tight ends, get a slow play of game, just like the Packers like to do, maybe limit to only 8 drives per team. That'll be beneficial to the Steelers. But I think that we're just going to hit 2 big plays in this game, and that's going to be the difference for the Bears.
Yeah,
we're going to hit the big plays.
The Steelers' run defense is decent. It's not great, but it's decent. And you guys need to run the ball too to get your offensive moving. But their pass defense is not great. It's not great. And so I really think the Bears offensive line can handle the Pittsburgh defensive line in this game and give Caleb Williams enough time to at least create chaos, like you said, once or twice, and like get a big play out of it, right? So yeah, and the Steelers just don't do big plays. Like they just don't. So I think, yeah, if you guys pull out a big play or two on offense and get a turnover on defense, yeah, I think the Bears win this one. I'm gonna say 24-20. The Bears win this game.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say 21-17, so that all sounds close.
Right around the same. Okay. All right. Well, now let's talk about the Green Bay Packers and Minnesota Vikings. So this is a huge game for the Green Bay Packers. And you know how I told you that the Bears are 0 in EPA, right? They're right in the middle of the pack in the NFL. They are slightly above. Get this, folks. The Bears are slightly above an EPA of the Green Bay Packers, who are 0.001. So the Packers are just barely above 0, as in not creating enough negative plays. The Packers are so much better in yards per game, so much better in sacks, so much better in rush defense, so much better in pass defense, but no turnovers. And we don't have a ton of sacks, right? So it just goes to show, like we were talking about last week, Dave, that a lot of the Packers' defensive stats are because of lack of opportunity, as in they're not playing as many series as other teams are. So their yardage is low. But if you actually look at per play, if you would have told me right now that the Bears and the Packers had the exact pretty much same EPA, I'd be like, what the hell? Because the Bears defense looks crazy terrible until they get a turnover.
They do.
Right? And then they get a turnover. And the Packers defense, it's like, yeah, they look good. But then the team just keeps driving down the field and they don't get that turnover. And I'm telling you, those make such a big difference in the outcome of games. And those 5 turnovers we didn't get last week made the huge difference to where the Giants basically controlled the clock and stopped the Packers from doing what they were doing. So, okay.
Yeah, they had the shot with 2 minutes left in the game. It should have been a laugher long before then.
Oh, absolutely. If Bullard gets that pick, so after the Packers go up, and if Bullard actually holds on to that pick and McKinney doesn't knock it out of his hands, we'll get the ball at like the 24. Like I can pretty much guarantee we score there. We go up by 2 scores and it's a different game. But hey, you got to make those plays. You can't knock the guy out of your own ball, your own guy's hands, McKinney. So here's something else that could actually play out in this game, Dave. So let me show you this. So let me.
Aaron Rodgers is going to finish his career as a Viking, sign a 1-day contract.
Maybe. I mean, it's possible. I mean, he's taking an extra stop before he does the Brett Favre trajectory. So, okay, let me put this on the stage. So check this out. This is the craziest thing I've seen. Dyer Carragher shared it. We got this from our buddy Greg. So this is the most unbelievable stat I've unearthed all year. 45 players in the NFL have returned 3 or more punts this season. In yards per attempt, the bottom 3 are Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, and Keyshawn Mason. And I said on my Packers reaction video, Dave, when I was talking about the special teams, I feel like we have more negative yards from holds combined on those punt returns than we have positive yards when they've actually returned the ball. And it turns out I'm right. That's how terrible our punt return team is. So literally defense, special teams, don't put a guy back there. Just have an extra guy playing safety in case they fake it, and just let the ball go, because we're going to start at the same yard line regardless whether we pick it up or not. That's how bad our punt return team has been. And I'm really, really disappointed in the Packers for not getting a punt returner in the offseason. We actually talked about it. They signed Mecole Hardman, right? Mm-hmm. And they put him on the practice squad and they eventually cut him. But with all the injuries and everything that's going on, we could use Mecole Hardman right now, and we could absolutely use him as a punt returner. So this offseason, when Romeo Doubs is probably let go, right? When Luke Musgrave is let go, and when a couple other guys are let go, we've got like 8 free agents that could be signed. And my guess is we are only going to sign probably 3 of those guys, maybe even only 2 of those guys. I really want the Packers to spend, because it doesn't cost a lot of money. Go and spend a little bit of money on a 5th or 6th wide receiver that is a punt and kick return specialist, please, 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 because it does make a big difference in the game. Look at the Bears game, Dave.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say Duvernay.
Duvernay's great, right? And he won that ball game for you, because if he doesn't return that far, I doubt you have enough time to go and win the game because there was 37 seconds and you had no timeouts left, right? At that point,
Yeah, they
0
scored with
timeouts.
50 seconds to go. So yeah, it would
Yeah,
have been
yeah,
about 35 seconds by the time the
I
offense
think it
got
was
to
like
the field.
38 after the clock or whatever. It was like maybe
Yeah,
40,
something like
but
that.
either way, you guys had no timeouts, which that doesn't say you couldn't have done it. But basically, he returned the ball. You guys ran 2 plays, got 9 yards, and kicked the easiest field goal to win a game that you possibly could. So, yeah, special teams matter, Matt LaFleur. Like, let's take care of our special teams. Please, please, please. All right. Now, there's something else I want to talk about because, and I keep forgetting which one we're on. Yuck, not that one. Okay. So I've been talking about EPA per play because I'm about it. I like going into the deeper stats. So right now, in EPA per play on offense, Dave's Indianapolis Colts are number 1 at plus 0.18. The Buffalo Bills are number 2 at plus 0.15. And the Chiefs are 3 at plus 0.14, tied with the Packers, who are 4th overall in offense in EPA per play. And again, it's because the offense isn't getting a lot of opportunities. Jordan Love is having to drive the field almost every time because we don't get turnovers and we have the worst punt return team in the league. That basically Jordan Love gets 6 or 7 chances per game, and he's got to go 85 yards almost every single time per game to get a touchdown. And he has to play almost perfect. It's just not a sustainable game plan. So here's the question, Dave. The Vikings have a good defense. The Vikings actually have a pretty awful offense. So you got the Packers' awful defense versus the Vikings' awful offense. The Packers' very good offense in EPA per play versus the Vikings' good but not great. They're actually 12th in EPA on defense, the Vikings are, but still good defense. Who do you think wins out, and which team do you think actually dominates the pace of play in this game? Do you think the Packers can actually stop JJ McCarthy from not being terrible?
My game plan for JJ McCarthy is I would drop 11 back in coverage and I would just let him throw.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let him scramble. I would just, okay, go ahead, throw, because
Yeah.
his accuracy is terrible. It's something
So
that,
bad down the field, man. So
they
bad.
got to work on it in the off season. It's not anything that they can easily fix within the next month. So yeah, I just say make sure that your D line, everyone has the discipline so they stay, so he doesn't get any chance to do any scrambles.
Yes.
And just don't blitz anyone. I know that you're complaining about them not getting pressure previously. You want to see a more dynamic, but here's one case where I'm like, all right, we'll just drop 8. We'll just drop 7 back every time. And I think that's gonna. I see them going 3 and out quite a bit.
I do, in a sense where I want to see what the Vikings run game does, because the Vikings offensive line is finally a little bit healthy. They're not great, but they're healthier. And they've got Madison, they've got Jones, who probably wants to have a big
Aaron
game.
Jones.
Yeah, so like if they keep running up that B gap like the Giants were doing all week last week, I want to see the Packers actually change, because I agree with you in the sense that with McCarthy, you don't want to blitz him because he's athletic enough where if he gets out, like he's going to cause trouble, right? So just keep him contained, let him beat you with his arm. But at the same time, I asked myself, are the Packers going to be able to stop the Vikings from getting in 3rd and 2 consistently to where then they have the run or the play action option where McCarthy can roll out and he can either throw or use his legs, and he's only throwing 6 or 7 yards down the field, not 15 to 20 where he struggles, right? We have to get him in positions to where he's making long throws. And that's been our biggest issue all year, is letting teams get 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3 consistently and not being able to stop them. So I got to see the Packers actually get some negative plays or actually get him in 3rd and long before, I'll agree with you on the 3 and out thing. But this
you got to
definitely
consider
plays.
that.
Go ahead.
Hawkinson used to be a dynamic tight end, right? He used to matter, right? Last year, he was coming off of his ACL injury, and last year he still had good stats. They weren't great. It was kind of a step off.
Yeah.
This year, he has, let's see, his offense for the regular season, he has 280 yards, averages 8 yards, 2 touchdowns, as long as it's 21. So he's not getting the ball. And so if you want to try to have a young quarterback in there, you need to have them rely on their tight end. Hawkinson, I don't know what happened. He was much more efficient last year.
Right.
But yeah, he just kind of fell off of a cliff And if you have
Because
accuracy
they had
issues, if you have
Sam
to try to
Darnold.
throw to the outside,
Right. But where does Hawkinson live? Hawkinson lives from 12 to 17. That's where he's his best, right? Like not short. He's not a short yardage tight end. He's like kind of a thin, like he's another Iowa guy, right? But he's like a thinner guy. So he's more like a 12 to 15 yard, like over the middle or an out kind of guy. And that's where JJ struggles versus Sam Darnold last year, who maybe didn't use Hawkinson as much, but like Sam Darnold is very accurate, like from 15 to 35 yards. Like you can see what he throws to JSN this year, where like those 30-yard throws, he throws them on a dime sometimes, right? JJ can't do that. So Hawkinson's been kind of useless because they don't really use him other than, every now and then in those 4 to 6 or 7 intermediate passing zones, because that's not really his skill set. His skill set is like his speed and his athleticism in like the 12 to 17 area, I would say, at least from what I've seen from Hawkinson on the Vikings, when he's been most successful. So hopefully the Packers can bottle him up. But I would actually like to see the Packers spy JJ McCarthy and again, make him throw, not let him run and use his legs, like have a spy on him, whether that's like a cornerback or the middle linebacker. I don't know. But my main concern is actually the Packers stopping them from getting a bunch of 3rd and short conversions, because if we can let Jameis Winston and the backup Giants convert a bunch of 3rd and 4th downs, as bad as McCarthy is, a lot of teams can convert 3rd and 2s, right? Or 3rd and 3s. So, that's my main concern. But Jordan Love is in Toyota-thon mode. So, Dave, Jordan Love had the highest PFF grade for a quarterback all year last week. Can you believe that? And like he had a 93.1. And like I said before, like he only had one throw that wasn't perfect, basically in this windy day in New York, right? And so they gave him a crazy high grade, which I was surprised about, but it was accurate. So does Toyota-thon Jordan Love come out? Yes, he does. Jordan Love is going to wreck the Vikings defense. It's going to be an ugly game. I think, dude, I hate to say this, Dave, but I think JJ McCarthy is going to have his best game of the season against us. I just know he is. Because we're not going to adjust. We're going to play vanilla. Like you said, it's going to stop them from scoring a bunch of points, but it allows your offense to be extremely efficient and just take chunk after chunk after chunk. And I think JJ will get in a rhythm at some point, and he'll get some decent yards, he'll get some decent plays. But I think the Packers offense is good enough in this game at home with Jordan Love on a heater to win 27, because they only score 27 when they win, to win 27 to 23. I'm going to say 23. I'm going to say a weird number, but 27-23 is my prediction for this game. So I am picking the Packers in this one. How do you think it's going to turn out, Dave?
I like the 27, but I'd just say 13.
No.
I don't see him drive. Green Bay has to turn the ball over in order for the Vikings to score 4 times.
I agree.
So that's when you say 23, that's saying that the Vikings have 5 scoring drives. Jordan really doesn't throw too many picks. There's not going to be too many chances of fumbles. It's a great defense.
True, but you're used to watching the Bears, Dave. You guys stopped them from scoring once on a pick that JJ threw when they should have had points, right? And then he turned it over again later in the game. So that my thing is since we don't create turnovers, I could see them getting 5 scoring drives, as in like 3 field goals and 2 touchdowns, right? I could definitely see that. That's what I'm saying, 23. So I could definitely see them getting 5 scoring drives because we don't cause any turnovers. So JJ is going to have opportunities to move the ball down the field without turning it over, which he loves to do.
I think him on the field is just going to look like a giant bowel on the field. It's just a bunch of doo-doo. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to sustain that many drives. That's why, I just don't think he's. You got the big playmakers, but with his accuracy, I don't really see Jefferson or Addison. I think I think he's a hell of a handcuff to them. I'm not really worried about them making explosive plays. Maybe they get one fluke, but I'm not overly concerned about them even scoring 17. I just think JJ, the quarterback, is he's not there yet. Got to give him a year.
At least a year, because he's not doing it. And again, his accuracy down the field has always been my major concern. And Justin Jefferson is basically useless at this point. He's getting like 5 catches for like 60 yards a game. Like he's like the big plays that JJ is making is all to Addison for the most part. Like he has a decent connection with Addison. And he's actually even had some to their rookie they drafted out of Maryland. Yeah, he's had a couple to Naylor, but he has not connected with JJ on like really any big plays. So
JJ's too fast. He's not used to having fast wide receivers at Michigan.
I guess, but like, I don't know. I feel like Naylor's really fast, right? And Addison's really fast,
that's
but
true.
he's just, him and JJ aren't on the same page. It's just really, really weird, man. So this would probably be the week for them to figure it out, though. Just
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
But it's definitely going to be an ugly game. I could even see the Vikings being up at some point, like 20 to like 14 in like the end of the third quarter, and the Packers come back and figure it out at the end. It's definitely not going to be an easy win. But all I know is, the Vikings defense is still good. It's not great this year, but it's still good. But the Vikings offense is not good. And we'll get a good view of what the Packers, how bad the Packers defense actually is this week, because the Vikings offense is bottom 3 in the NFL. It's one of the worst in the NFL right now. And if they go on sustained drives, like I'm saying they will, and you're saying they probably won't, but if they do go on sustained drives, then it's pretty official that this Packers defense is 100% a fraud. Because this Vikings.
Then you don't have to hear about all of the talk about Halfley becoming a head coach somewhere else next year.
Oh no, that was done week 5. That was already over week 5. Like after week 5, I was just like, Halfley is not that guy. He's not that guy, which is so weird because if you actually remember when we watched the Lions game and the Commanders game, we were blitzing, we were getting home, like they were playing aggressively downhill. And I think they just got found out. And I think he hasn't adjusted, and other teams have adjusted to the way that they play defense. So we'll see what he does this week. But I'm not getting my hopes up that it's going to be a good game. I'm not getting my hopes up that our coaches are going to do well. But I do believe that Toyotathon Jordan Love will win the day. So the Packers are going to win. So, all right, week 12, that's pretty much everything we wanted to cover, Dave. What's the one thing that I missed, or what's the one thing that we didn't talk about that's important this week?
I'd say the one thing that we failed to talk is Josh Allen, how he did against Houston last year. We didn't talk about the game because it's going live right now. Last year, he only got 100 yards against Houston's defense. They're elite. Yep. He went off for 6 touchdowns last week, but Houston's up 20-16, 9 minutes left in the third quarter. Josh Allen's only thrown for 106 yards, 12-16, so he's taking a lot of the short ones. They're again without Keon Coleman. It just sounds like he has too many issues. He needs to grow up. Shakir got to go to the blue tent for a little bit just to be checked out. The Bills are this is their year to do it. I don't think Patrick's going to make it, but Bills just aren't looking elite. This is anybody's game this season. This is the funnest season in a long time. There's nobody dominating other than Caleb Williams.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep believing in that. Well, I was going to say Davis Mills has actually done better in this offense than Stroud has done all year. Like in the last couple weeks, like it just goes to show you, don't take quarterbacks out of Ohio State unless you're the Bears. Good night, everybody.
Good night.